So hi there, my name is Brent Smith, and I am the Common Constitutionalist. So welcome to the Common Constitutionalist Weekend audio version of the video podcast. And the snow in New England was threatening, so I didn't want to take the chance of going outside and getting caught in a storm or some such nonsense. So I just wanted to go ahead and stay in and do the audio version of the podcast. And today I've got one topic. It is Al-Qaeda. Yes, Al-Qaeda. Hadn't heard that name in a little bit. And Al-Qaeda is on the rise again. What a surprise. That's what we're going to be discussing today on the weekend edition of the Common Constitutionalist audio podcast.
You are listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
All right, welcome back. Once again, my name is Brent Smith, and I'm the Common Constitutionalist. And yes, Al-Qaeda is on the rise again. What a shocker. Well, not really. They never really went anywhere. But Al-Qaeda is, in fact, apparently on the rise again. And their goal is to once again to be the dominant terror network that it once was. And Osama bin Laden's youngest son, Hamza bin Laden, has been groomed for years, apparently, to take over as the leader of the new terror network. And, of course, just like some bad movie script or a made-for-TV movie, Hamza has vowed revenge for his father's death. So, over the past several years, you may have noticed, or maybe you just didn't notice at all, that Al-Qaeda really has been little discussed in it and kind of appeared to shrink away from the public eye. You just haven't heard or seen from them much. Yet they've kind of, well, I suppose in an evil way, have been smart about rebuilding after the death of their leader at the hands of our Tier 1 naval special operators in 2011. It's kind of that they kept a low profile, but at the same time they just kind of got lucky that ISIS formed when they did and filled the void that they temporarily left behind. So it made it a lot easier for them to keep a lower profile as they rebuild in strength and regroup tactically and so on and so forth. So while America and the world's eyes, guns, and the press attention were trained on ISIS, Al-Qaeda was able to regroup and rebuild outside the spotlight, so to speak. But last summer, I think it was August of 2018, a UN report, quote, found that Al-Qaeda is still a global network showing resilience and is stronger than ISIS in places like Somalia, Yemen, and South Asia. And its leadership in Iran has grown more prominent, which is kind of odd, to be honest with you, because the Al-Qaeda network is Sunni Arab, and Iranians are Shiite Arab or Shia Arab. That's like oil and water, man. They just simply don't mix. But the UN report continued saying, Al-Qaeda's leadership demonstrates strategic patience and its regional affiliates exercise good tactical judgment, embedding themselves in local issue and becoming players, unquote. And the report also added that even ISIS supporters have begun to join Al-Qaeda, and because ISIS has a huge freaking target on its back, these guys are probably fleeing the ISIS territories and looking to join another terror network that it's on. We'll say that's on the rise, other than, unlike ISIS, which is, like I said, they've gotten a lot of attention from the Americans, from President Trump, from the Europeans, from everybody that want to wipe them completely off the map. Now, ISIS still has like 20 or 30,000 fighters throughout the what area that they do control, what little area they do control left. But again, they are rapidly being eradicated, and these dudes don't want, a lot of these guys are just saying, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here, I'm going to join another terror network, what a deal, and I'm going to go with Al-Qaeda. It's like the draft or something, I don't know, or free agency, that's it, it's free agency. Well, Muhammad is being traded from ISIS to Al-Qaeda for a third-round draft pick. So it's interesting to note that around the same time as the release of the UN report last August, I guess it was, the AP reported that the Saudi-led coalition battling the Houthis in the Iranian-backed Shiites rebels in Yemen, that proxy war in Yemen, cut secret deals with al-Qaeda fighters, paying some of them to leave key cities and towns and letting others to retreat with weapons, equipment, and wads of looted cash. And for this reason, my guess is the reasoning the Saudis are paying off al-Qaeda fighters to just leave the battlefield, for want of a better term, during the Yemeni proxy war with Iran, is that they don't have to fight both of them. So remember, like I said, al-Qaeda is Sunni and the Iranian coalition, so to speak, is Shiite, and they are like oil and water. They simply don't mix. These guys, Sunnis want to wipe the Shiites out, and vice versa. And this is how, the old saying about strange bedfellows, this is how you end up with such strange bedfellows. Some of these same al-Qaeda terrorists are fighting alongside the Saudi-led coalition, which is, of course, Sunni, and by extension the United States, owing that the U.S. is giving support to the Saudis in the Yemen civil war, so to speak. Civil war, my fanny. And it takes you back to the other old saying, my enemy is my friend. Of course, that's a lie, and it's always been a lie, because of course, they never are your friends. The enemy of your enemy is usually still your freaking enemy. And so you just think how stupid that is. It never works out in the end. We supply weapons and money to the Saudis for their, frankly, dumbass proxy war in Yemen against the Iranian-backed Houthis, which we hate even more, apparently. And al-Qaeda joins up with the Saudis. So, as I said, by extension, we're supporting al-Qaeda with our money and weapons. Brilliant! So, with the Americans supplied money and weapons, and often payments from the Saudis giving them more money just to leave Yemen, al-Qaeda has been given the wherewithal, I guess, to plan and carry out attacks on us and our stuff and our allies and whatever. Brilliant move. So we'll take a quick break and we'll get back to Hamza bin Laden. Be right back.
You're listening to The Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you for listening, by the way. And again, my name is Brent Smith. I'm the Common Constitutionalist, and this is the Common Constitutionalist Weekend audio, not video, podcast. So, Hamza bin Laden, he's the youngest son of Osama bin Laden, and he apparently has been groomed from early on to take over the family business, so to speak. Yeah, what a business. Sheesh. And he's been officially now recognized by the United Nations as a terrorist. And that takes some doing. Think about this. It takes some doing to recognize somebody as a terrorist from the UN, considering who's in the UN and who's part of the UN, who sits at that big table at the UN. There's a bunch of tin pot dictators and American haters, and some, if not a lot of these guys, support terrorism themselves. So to call somebody a terrorist, they got to be a pretty bad dude, you know what I'm saying? But now we learn that Hamza bin Laden is apparently such a great threat that the State Department is offering $1 million to anyone who can provide any information, not to his capture or to be killed or captured or anything else, but just find out where the hell he is. They don't know where this guy is. To date, America, none of her allies, nobody has a clue where this guy is. So that's so they have to give out $1 million just to say where the hell is he? I don't know. But what the State Department does know is since at least I think it was August 2015, Hamza bin Laden has been releasing audio and video messages on the internet calling on his followers to launch attacks against the U.S. and its Western allies. And he has threatened attacks against the United States, of course, in revenge for the May 2011 killing of his papa, of his little daddy, Osama Obama. Did I say that? No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah, I did. And just this past, to add to that, the State Department thing and the United Nations recognizing Hamza bin Laden as a terrorist, the U.S. issuing $1 million bounty on this guy. It's not a bounty on his head. It's a $1 million reward just to find out where the hell he is. And the State Department releasing these, releasing a statement saying that he's been releasing audio and video messages, basically calling on his followers to attack the U.S. or attack the West or attack Europe or whatever, for the revenge for his father's killing. But the UK Security Minister Ben Wallace just this past December warned that Al-Qaeda, the group behind the infamous World Trade Center attacks that killed almost 3,000 people in the U.S. on September 11, 2001, still aspire for aviation attacks and is developing technology to bring down planes. This is Wallace still speaking, this is a quote, the aviation threat is real. Al-Qaeda have reorganized. They are pushing more and more plots towards Europe and have become familiar with the new methods, unquote. And the reason, obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious to a lot of people, but it's obvious to the people, the geeks like us that follow this kind of crap. The reason why they pick Europe is geography. It's geographically easier to attack Europe from the Middle East or from wherever, Northern Africa or wherever you happen to be based out. Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, anywhere. It's easier to hit Europe than it is to get into the United States either through Canada or Mexico or fly in on a tourist visa or a student visa or whatever the heck they did the last time, those 19 Saudi guys. But to attack Europe, all you got to do is get into Europe, and it's relatively simple than getting to America, and that's why they attack Europe. And a lot of the times they'll attack these types of places, I wouldn't say to practice, but to perfect their craft, I guess. So when they have the opportunity to attack America, they want to make a big splash like they did on 9/11, and so they pull off these smaller attacks, and they tweak their methodology, their tactics, and everything else, and then they hit America with some massive attack, and that's the way it works. But like I said, first and foremost, geographically, it's a hell of a lot easier to hit any European nation, any city in Europe, particularly because of the huge Muslim concentrations of population in major European cities throughout Europe, in France, in Germany, in Belgium, everywhere, Great Britain, everywhere. It's much easier to just go there, be there, have a cell there, and then just attack from the city itself. So Wallace, the UK minister, then went on to explain of what I spoke of earlier, quote, Al-Qaeda sat quietly in the corner and tried to work out what the 21st century looked like while ISIS became the latest terrorist boy band. But they most certainly have not gone away, unquote. But that's part of the problem that we have here in the West, is our attention span is like the cat, like a cat or a dog, a squirrel, and all of a sudden your attention span goes from one topic to another on a dime. And so we get so easily attracted by shiny objects until out of the blue we're attacked again, and we go, wait, what happened? Who attacked us? How did they attack us? Where did this come from? Well, they've been planning it for decades or years in some cases. In the case of 9/11, they've been planning it for a long time, and they got all their logistics right, their strategy right, their tactics right, and then they hit. And they hit, for us, they hit out of the blue because no one was watching. And now we're watching, but we were put back to sleep after Osama bin Laden was killed, thinking that Al-Qaeda was, what were they going to do? Evaporate? No, of course not. They were just going to reorganize, find a new leader. It looks like they've done that in his youngest son, Hamza, and now they're ready to reemerge, probably stronger than ever. And like I said, a lot of ISIS fighters are going to start moving away from ISIS because it's being eradicated all over the place, because that's who we're concentrating on, and moving into Al-Qaeda just so they can kill the infidels of the West. That's the way it works. But these attacks are never out of the blue, at least not for them. They weren't then, and they won't be the next time. It just isn't covered by the media. Look at what we're enthralled by. The television shows we're enthralled by, or by this idiot Michael Cohen, or the black-faced Democrat governor of Virginia, or the latest dim-witted thing from the socialist Ocasio-Cortez. This is what we're concentrating on. All the while, Hamza bin Laden and his gang of thugs are planning new attacks in Europe and probably in America, and we're concentrating on everything but. I mean, it's not like the general public should be concentrating on those things, but we've pretty much lost sight of it. The old saying from September 11, never forget. Well, I hate to break the news to you, but until a big deal is made of some sort of memorial on September 11 or something like that, a remembrance, most people have forgotten. And 2001 was a long time ago. A lot of people weren't even alive back then. So, then when the next attack comes, it is going to seem like it's out of the blue because people just either aren't familiar with, the terrorist cells, terrorist attacks in the United States, other than, some shootings and whatnot, but they don't have any idea about the damage that can be caused by another terrorist attack like it was on 9/11. And so when it comes, it's going to be a big shock to a lot of people. And that, and it goes back to the patience of these Muslims, the Arab Muslims, is that, other than these idiots in ISIS that thought they could have it all now, Al-Qaeda has always been very patient. Westerners think in terms of like minutes and hours and days, and then move on to the next distraction, to the next shiny object. These guys, they've been around for centuries and millennia. It's been ridiculous. And they think in years and decades, and we think in days and minutes. They're plotting and planning for the next strike, and it could take a decade between strikes. But when they strike, we all know about it, and it leaves a huge mark. So it's just like the next big earthquake, or the next big tsunami, or the next big volcano erupting, or something like that. It's not a matter of when they're going to attack. It's not a matter of if they're going to attack. It's when they're going to attack. But we will be hit again, and more than likely it's going to be by this resurgent Al-Qaeda. And for the past several years, America has had ISIS on the brain. ISIS, what is it, Bakr? I can't remember what the crap his name was. But the leader of ISIS, and everything has been ISIS 24/7 when you're talking about terrorism. Well, I got to tell you, all eyes should be focused clearly on Al-Qaeda, the resurgent Al-Qaeda, because that's where attacks are going to come, like I said. And I'm sure, at least I sure as hell hope, that our intelligence overseas and here in the United States are concentrating on these guys, because these guys are deadly serious. They have a new leader, and he's driven by revenge of his dear dad, who was killed by our SEAL team. And that's what's going to come down to. So I hope we're ready for it. By some miracle, maybe we don't get attacked. But I think that it's going to happen. It may happen in Europe first, but I'm going to guess that America will eventually get hit again by a terrorist attack. And if they do get hit again, or when we do get hit again, it's going to be by Al-Qaeda. So that's all I've got today. This is Brent Smith, and I'm the Common Constitutionalist. Thank you for listening to the audio version of the weekend video podcast. Sorry about that, guys. And that's all I've got. I'm out. See ya.